All right, final segment of the show here, as always, coming from our great friends over at Barrel Theory Beer Company, Keyboard Warriors, hot take segment. And again, I was out there Sunday, incredible tap list across the board. I don't know how much more I can say for you guys. And for those unsure, having that be your destination before the game, equidistant pretty much from any of the stuff you're going to do over on West 7th out here on East 7th. And there's plenty of eating options out there too. Like right next door, I hit up Dark Horse and won pull tabs, which is awesome, but good food, good drinks, and having the Barrel Theory fix, just the best. And of course, get the Crowler of the Day, section 105, every freaking time you go, or Raindrops, section 112, 217, or club level 36. Hot takes for today, Joe. This one we would have talked about anyways, but still kind of rings true after the Wild faced them. The C is weighing a little heavy on the sweater of one Auston Matthews. A lot of people like to give Johnny Tavares a pretty tough time for what he's done the last couple of years, and Matthews takes the C. His goal scoring dramatically down. After falling just short of 70 goals, he is pacing under half a goal a game, which I think that just means Auston Matthews is broken. He's done. He's washed up, right?
They should just put him on waivers and see who claims him, and see what happens.
I mean, there's no Arizona team anymore, so maybe he would clear.
Yeah, maybe the Wild shouldn't sign Mitch Marner next season. They should just trade for Auston Matthews at a bargain basement price.
Well, did you? Oh man, I got to add that one in. I didn't even remember that. Yeah, we're gonna do that next.
The
continue
Buccigross thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's tie him into one. Let's tie him into one. We'll just make it Toronto. Yeah. John Buccigross tags Russo and says, hey, why don't you guys sign Mitch Marner to play with Kaprizov? Fans did not take kindly to that.
I don't know what the fans said. Like, some fans were like, why not? Why have people who were not good in the playoffs on the team? Blah, blah, blah. But I think there's Mitch Marner is a heck of a good hockey player. So I think if there's a player of that stature who decides in free agency that of all the teams in the world, he wants to sign with Minnesota, I think Wild fans would quickly change their tune, or at least the Wild fans who were vociferous in that the claims on that one. But the Auston Matthews claim, like, he's going to be just fine. Like, I think the transition was awkward, of course, but as seamless as it can be with Tavares, bridging the gap and reaching out to him and being so personal with it, and the whole transition got to be hard for him. But the Leafs are going to be judged in April 15th through June 15th. They're not going to be judged in October, November. Right? Like, they've had slow starts the last number of years, and like, they're not blowing. Like, this is the core they have. They're going to get another run. They have a new coach, like Rube. Like, you wouldn't worry or judge Auston Matthews being a captain in the first 12 games of a season. So any team would love to have him. And so I think it's just one of those things where some guys like Kirill Kaprizov has gone off to slow starts previous couple seasons. And then, Matt Boley last season, rough start the first 19 games and came on strong. Like, I'm not worried about Auston Matthews. And, the whole Mitch Marner and Kirill Kaprizov thing would be kind of fun to see, but I don't see that as something that's logistically going to happen. But why not aim big if you're a team in free agency? So,
I mean, if we're going to take that literally and go in stature, why not pass on both of them and bring in loved former Gopher Matty Knies, who it pains me so deeply to see him playing in Toronto.
He's so good. Like, in like that line, right? Or that whole group, the Knies, Cooley, Faber combo on that team. Like, it's incredible they're on the same group, right? All of them are playing in the NHL. But Knies kind of flew under the radar relatively compared to Cooley because of the way cool he plays and the style of which he plays and the flair and the swag. And but Knies just feels like he's built the NHL, and a guy who's playing with Matthews and Marner and the hockey sense to do it. Like, this guy's gonna be a really good player for a long, long time. And there'll be a lot of teams that were kicking themselves for letting him get to the later second round pick. Just like
he had a pretty tough year that year, though, in the defense. Like, second round might have even been a slight reach based on how he played. But oh my gosh, you're right. Teams are absolutely kicking themselves, and he was really kicking himself right now. The guy who got him to leave the Gophers when he did, Kyle Dubas over in Pittsburgh, who's like, God, I want him over here so bad.
Yeah, well,
bad.
Yeah, he's settling for Sidney Crosby, so he will be okay next back. But yeah, like I just that whole group being around them, the Frozen Four in that year, that season, see guys who are all of a sudden real deal pros, and Brock Faber is just, I think people thought Faber would be good in the NHL level, but I don't think people realize how good he was and will be. And this is just like, very rarely do you see a defenseman just come to the NHL and be this seamless. Right?
I was very wrong.
Very rare that guys can come in and play that position, and not a third pairing left shot D or a 7th D. This is a top 4 or top pairing defenseman against the best in the world right away.
Munch minutes.
In college or not, that just doesn't happen very, very often. You're looking at the Cale Makars of the world, right? So pretty special company.
Very special company. Next one here, Joe. This one's a weirder one, and I'm sure people think it's a stretch or not weird, wild, but I think it would have been hilarious if Kirill Kaprizov took part in the photo shoot with Jefferson and Edwards, just like standing off to the side in the corner almost, because, in my defense, you could argue that there's a hockey player in the Garnett and Moss photo, because there was no team when that happened.
Well, I mean,
it was in 2000, right before we got the Wild.
And Kaprizov is very much in that category of stature of where he is in the league that he plays in, right? He obviously doesn't have the familiarity with the Jefferson and Ant as far as them knowing each other relationship, but as far as stature in their sport and what he can be and what he means, like the hope and the dreams for fans and that team and in that sport, very much linked to that player, just like it is with Jefferson and just like it is with Anthony Edwards. So it would be an interesting photo shoot of like their personalities getting together, but like I think there might be some things more in common than you think about when you have elite athletes like that.
For sure.
So clearly Minnesota's lucky to have this kind of influx of talent, or at least kind of superstar power that maybe you've seen a few times, like as Minnesota sports it probably can attest to, right? When you had, when the Twins were in their heyday versus that, like there's very few times all the sports teams have had that superstar at the same time.
It is a very cool thing to see. Last one here that I don't have a particular post or comment on, but I've just seen endless comments on Yakov Trenin being the biggest bust of a signing. And I know it's because he's really the only signing we made this summer. And so people are going to key in on that and be like, why aren't you doing more? It is weird, though. Like, I think people need to give him more runway for sure. But at this point in the season, having 1 assist and then having the only fight on the team being Brock Faber, and then you're looking at this third line with him and Foligno being like, come on, like poke him with a stick, do something. And the fun thing too, I think you're the only media person, Joe. Maybe it's because you're on paternity leave. I feel like everyone else adds an extra IN when they say his name. It's always Trenin instead of Trenin. You're going to hear it now and you're like, God damn it. You shattered the glass.
Am I messing it up? God damn it. Again, like, I feel like we talk about this most every podcast, and like, I think when people watch free agency and they saw that signing, it was easy to think, and like, I think myself included, like, it did seem longer and for more AAV than I think people anticipated. And that's the essence of free agency. We don't know what the offers were other people offering for him. But I think that's the kind of player or role that's going to grow over time. And where it's too early, I guess, to judge that. I guess eventually it won't be too early to judge that. And so we'll be talking about that more, and we'll be very critical of it. But I don't see him dogging it on shifts. I don't see him, like, it's hard to blame him for being on a new team and trying to figure out his role and be with that group. Like, they didn't sign him to be this impact offensive player on the third line. Like, if him and Foligno and their underlying numbers are pretty good as far as suppressing scoring chances and defending really well and doing all that, that's kind of the way that they wanted to bring him in for, so again, looking forward to seeing what happens as the season goes on. But for a Wild team that's on this hot of a start, there's going to be some nitpicking no matter where you go. And I understand where people are coming from is nitpicking the new guy who had the biggest contract, not named Brock Faber, coming into the year.
Yeah, and obviously it's not this black and white, and there's more nuance to it. But what do you think is a proper runway before judging a player entering a new team like that? Like, is it 20 games? Is it more? Like, where do you roughly put it? Obviously, again, knowing that there will be more that goes into that evaluation.
Well, what's the biggest knock? The one assist thing, like they're not scoring points. Is that what it is mostly, versus like
it's the points. It's not seeming as physical as expected. And I will say, like, to your point, he hasn't looked bad. He hasn't really been noticeable at any point so far. You know what I mean? Like, you want him to make an impact on the game somehow. I don't care if that's scoring a goal versus fighting someone versus like going out there and being just a physical presence on the forecheck with Foligno. Like, he just hasn't made an impact, and he hasn't like stood out glaringly as being bad. I just want to, like, I think a lot of fans are just like, do something, give us something to look at and point at and be like, okay, that's what he's doing good.
Yeah. And I think, I'm sure people can go look ahead at like a Foligno and say, how many games was he that guy? Right. And Foligno's a guy that very beloved and a key part of the core, and like sign long-term, like makes $4 million, right? Or whatever. Like, he's going to be a guy that not every day has those up the way you look at it on the score sheet or impact. But I think eventually, as the season wears on, those guys will have even bigger impacts. So, but I think 20 games is a fair gauge. 20 games, for a new team, and depends on what your role is. But
for sure,
I think the fact that they've been off to such a good start has kind of masked anything that's been going on with some guys, right? Like, I think if they were, 6 and 8 or whatever it might be, then we want more focus on what might not be happening with certain players. Might not be as much patience, but there's a luxury now of having a little bit more patience with the way things are kind of building. There's a patience of having still one of the worst penalty kill percentages, right? Like, penalty kill hasn't improved an awful lot, right, as far as numbers go, and that's kind of been a little under the radar, I think, with this team. There are things that kind of get masked a little bit when you have a lot of things that are going so well for a team.
No, that is very fair. Well, thank you to our friends, Barrel Theory Beer Company, bringing you the hot take segment here every week.